Lu Hao asks the monsters to wait a second while he deals with that cursed system, but they have no interest in waiting and lunge at him. In the middle of the ambush, Shen worries from inside, but the monstrous mouth on Lu Hao's hand acts on its own and starts devouring one of the attackers. Lu Hao grows furious at his lack of control over his own hand and scolds it out loud, demanding it stop acting on its own initiative. He asks the system what is going on. The system informs him that it is absorbing a significant amount of energy from the crystal cores and that an upgrade to a new version is underway. In the middle of Lu Hao's confusion, the system warns that it needs to restart and will be temporarily offline. Lu Hao panics and begs for the update not to begin right now, but the system simply shuts down. Without heeding his protests, it leaves Lu Hao screaming and asking why it couldn't wait until he was done dealing with the horde of mutants. The creatures begin pressing in on him from all sides. Out of patience, Lu Hao explodes with rage and starts destroying the surrounding monsters with the colossal hand. Suddenly, tentacles emerge from his body and begin extracting the crystal cores from the slaughtered mutants. Lu Hao realizes that the more the hand devours those cores, the cloudier his mind becomes, and he starts to suspect whether the rage he felt just now was also under the hand's influence. Meanwhile, the girls inside the bunker ask Poin why their boss Lu Hao has gone still and whether something is wrong. Shen decides to step in, but her attention is pulled away by the ice barrier being broken through by some monsters. A new wave invades the building in growing numbers. Shen moves to help Lu Hao, but he warns her not to come close. He cannot control himself. Outside the city, Xiao notices that all the creatures from a certain area have converged near the casino. Chang finds the situation strange since that type of mutant does not normally act in groups. Xiao wonders whether the boy knew something about Judgment Day and did something to draw them there. Inside the bunker, Lu Hao concludes that they are cornered, but the system chooses exactly that moment to announce that the update has been completed. An unknown energy explodes from his body and hurls the mutants in every direction. The system informs him that the genetic unlock has reached 20% and that the new system has been activated. Lu Hao has acquired the form known as Tyrant. Consumed by fury, Lu Hao begins tearing the monsters apart as if they were wet paper, screaming only the word kill. He even rips the skin off some of them with his own teeth and roars like a beast pushed to its limit. Poin watches in alarm, and Shen recognizes in him the same disoriented ferocity she had herself when she came out of the tank. He has also lost control. The remaining monsters retreat in fear, but Lu Hao spirals deeper into his rage, ripping off limbs and panting like a maddened predator. When he finishes off the last of them, he lands in front of Shen, who tries to call him by name. He turns toward her with a roar and leaps in her direction. Shen confirms what she suspected. She raises an ice shield and tries to make him snap out of it, but he shatters it with a single blow. Lu Hao's aura paralyzes her completely. She cannot move. Suddenly, Lu Hao is transported into a flashback from his previous life. After he had rescued Shen, she asks him how long he has been recovering there. He says it has been nearly 3 months and that his wounds should have healed long ago. She then asks whether he will not return to the base with her. He replies that he is completely useless in combat now and would only be a burden, and that he has no desire to endure the looks people give him every day. Shen then admits that she has been healed for some time, but is afraid that once they part ways, they will never meet again. He tells her not to worry. He will pass through the camp when he finishes what he has to do, and assures her that fate will bring them face to face again, if it is meant to happen. Back in the present, the ferocity in Lu Hao begins to dissolve. He looks at Shen and murmurs that they have finally found each other again. She does not understand, but catches him when he collapses and asks if he is alright. The girls in the background let out a long sigh of relief as they realize it is over. The whole group stands in stunned silence at the fact that he wiped out that entire horde on his own. Poin quietly wishes he had the powers of an awakened, so he could be truly useful. He then orders the girls to stop standing around, clean up the place, rebuild the gate, and get ready for the next attack. On the other side, Anna asks Xiao why he brought her to a place like this after talking about an important mission. He tells her to stop complaining. He would not have bothered if it were not for Lord Chang's orders. Suddenly, the two of them come face to face with a man of enormous stature, who asks Xiao whether he brought him a woman. Anna freezes in fear just from looking at him. Xiao tells the man to cut it out and informs him that Lord Chang wants him to accompany them to the casino and to bring anyone who might be useful. The man is addressed as Sang Biao. Shortly after, a contingent of soldiers boards a plane with the mission of occupying Area A and eliminating any rival factions in the designated territories. Xiao and Anna watch from behind. Anna is stunned by the reach of young Master Chang and unsettled by the group standing beside them. They are sent to be elite forces created specifically to hunt down ability users. They're called enforcers. She wonders why all of this has been mobilized to deal with Lu Hao, who she still sees as just some ordinary kid. Sang Biao appears and leads his men. One of them comments that Xiao said Lu Hao is just a teenager, and that it isn't even known whether he survived the mutant horde. He asks whether it is really necessary for all of them to go. Sang Biao dismisses the doubt, and reveals that he has received information about a laboratory beneath the casino, where a certain woman is being held. The rest of the group goes pale when they understand he is talking about subject K423, the Ice Queen. In the bunker, Shen searches the place for Lu Hao without finding him. Point starts to sweat with a suspicious air, and explains that Lu Hao said he was going to scout the surrounding area as soon as he woke up. He should be back soon. Shen finds it odd that he went out and asks about his physical condition. Point assures her that he said he was fine, but admits that he got the impression that Lord Lu Hao did not want to hurt anyone. Shen pushes back, saying he cannot possibly be fine, especially after his hair color changed like that. Point says he did not seem concerned. Shen mutters to herself, why does he always insist on handling everything on his own? Why can't he not trust others just a little more? Does he think she is too weak to handle it? Meanwhile, Lu Hao tears through the streets like lightning on a powerful motorcycle, running over mutants that appear in his path as if they were training obstacles. He reaches a strategic point and asks the system to open the map. Assessing the terrain, he confirms that the layout of the city around the meteor crater is divided into zones, exactly as he remembered from his previous life. If the course of events holds, ability users and high-level mutants will begin fighting over and merging territories over the coming years, forming consolidated power zones. Since the casino was still a reasonable distance from the nearest crater, Lu Hao considers the location suitable for establishing himself and growing steadily, as long as he first clears the area of the ability user factions operating there. As for the mutants, in the memories he carries from his previous life, there were no Lord-class ones in this region. But it seems another problem is taking shape. He asks the Tyrant system exactly what his ability is and what the name Tyrant means. No answer. He gives up and asks it to open the status panel. The system congratulates him. The genetic lock has been unlocked to level 2, evolution level 25%. All attributes have surged and a unique ability has been acquired, Tyrant's Fury. He wonders whether that was the ability that made him lose control. If he had not come back to his senses in time, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Lu Hao comes to the realization that what Shen does not know is that no one was controlling his body. The desire to kill everything around him was genuinely his own, raw and unfiltered. He keeps wondering what made him snap out of it, and suspects it was her completely passive stance. He also suspects that this cursed system has its own goals that it does not share. Either way, he decides they will make use of each other for as long as it serves to bring down Changdong. He asks the system for detailed information on Tyrant's Fury. The system explains, the ability drastically elevates all attributes, capable of crushing any adversary who dares face the Tyrant head-on. However, it requires a high concentration of virus as its substrate. Without it, the host's life force will be severely consumed, and control tends to be lost. Use with caution is strongly recommended. Upon learning of the high virus concentration requirement, Lu Hao decides to go investigate the meteor crater. It is then that he notices soldiers being mobilized in the area. Down below, an officer asks the men whether the sweep of Area A is complete. They confirm it is clear. The soldiers report to their captain, Captain Gu, that all civilians should already have been sent to the assembly point, and ask whether they are to return. They keep calling her name without a response. She finally reacts, saying she was thinking. She asks whether all civilians found in the southern district have been routed to the power plant, and then announces that they will soon advance toward the crater. She orders the men to stay on full alert. Suddenly, Gu picks up a sound and asks her colleagues whether they heard something that sounded like a motorcycle engine. Strange, since the area has been evacuated. But Gu quickly picks up something different, the sound of a large number of mutants approaching. She orders the men into combat positions. Confused, they obey without seeing anything. Moments later, mutants emerge exactly from the direction she indicated. activated. The soldiers open fire and the tanks move into action. Lu Hao watches the clash from above and is impressed by the sheer firepower on display. He concludes that they should be able to handle those low-level mutants without much trouble. He recalls that in his previous life, he survived thanks to the temporary shelter provided by the military, but also remembers that they vanished too soon, abandoning the city to its own fate. He always wondered what they were doing. One of the monsters catches his attention. Lu Hao examines it and recognizes it. It is a lesser mutant, one of the first formed at the crater from the meteor's impact. The proximity to the rock caused fragments of crystal to grow across the creature's skin. That type tends to live in groups near the craters, absorbing energy from the fragments. Lu Hao wonders how this one ended up out here alone. A single one of those monsters should not be underestimated. In his previous life, Lu Hao would have run without thinking twice. This time, he pulls up his HUD and goes in for the fight. On the battlefield, Gu is stunned to see the lesser mutant close the distance in the blink of an eye and knock down one of her soldiers along with several tanks. One of the men moves in with an RPG, but the mutant impales him before he can fire. Everyone realizes the creature is absurdly fast. Gu watches the body of the freshly killed soldier begin to crystallize. When the monster advances on her, she manages to pull back just in time but falls sideways. She coughs, steadies herself, grabs the RPG, and fires it straight at the monster, which starts screaming as part of its body is torn away by the heat. Gu feels a surge of hope seeing that it worked, but the monster recovers quickly and roars at her. Tentacles sprout from the wound, and Gu begins to wonder whether that thing is immortal. Suddenly, the sound of the motorcycle rings out again, and Lu Hao flies past her from behind, hurling the bike straight into the monster's face. As the vehicle crushes the creature's head, he flashes a crooked grin. He is having more fun than he should be. Using the bike's own tires, he tears the mutant's head clean off. When he lands, Gu asks whether he is human. Lu Hao recognizes her immediately as Ging Yu, but finds it strange that she nearly got taken down by a lesser mutant. Ging Yu orders the soldiers to lower their weapons. He is human. The others cannot make sense of why anyone would be riding a motorcycle at a time like this, and even question whether he is out of his mind. Lu Hao realizes she still knows nothing about ability users at this stage. In his previous life, she was a renowned ability user, part of a specialized military squad, and treated ordinary people with genuine warmth. If the military had not pulled out of the settlement area so abruptly, Lu Hao knew that he and Poin could have lived a decent life under that organization. Lu Hao says the conversation can wait and goes to face the monster, which is already starting to reattach its severed head. The entire group stands slack-jawed. Lu Hao tells him to back away. The soldiers question whether he has a death wish. That thing flipped an armored vehicle. He tells them to stop getting in the way. He draws a blade and separates the monster's head for good. Then he coats the body in electricity and extracts the crystal core, which was what he was after from the start. That core is highly concentrated, the result of years spent absorbing energy in the meteor zone. Unlike other mutants, the lesser mutant's body depends entirely on it. The only true way to neutralize one is to remove that core. Normally, those virus crystals are extremely resistant, but Ging Yu had already destroyed the outer layer with the RPG, which saved Lu Hao a considerable amount of effort. Even so, he wonders how this lesser mutant ended up so far from the crater. Suddenly, the lesser begins to speak, something about an apostle of the Lord and a power it had been searching for until it found one. Lu Hao is surprised that the creature can articulate words. The tyrant system appears and activates a hidden mission with contents still unknown. Lu Hao grows tired of this system's oddities and concludes it is never plotting anything simple. The system informs him that he has discovered his talent ability and that this may open the next step. Lu Hao does not understand what a talent ability is, but he also notices that the mission has no deadline or penalty. He decides to ignore for now since he has been gone too long. He resolves to head back, as long as he can be sure that Tyrant's Fury will not activate on its own randomly. The system then warns him that the small crystal fragments scattered across the ground are pieces of the meteor crater and suggests he collect them. Lu Hao gathers them. Gu clears her throat to get his attention and thanks him for the help. She introduces herself as the captain of the city's search and rescue team and asks for his name. Lu Hao knows that the period of chaos will be setting in soon, factions staking out territory everywhere, and getting his name involved now would be unwise. Before he can answer, helicopters fly over them. One of the soldiers asks whether they are military. Dax says he does not recognize the faction. Lu Hao says he has to go. He knows that only Changdong's people would show up with that kind of fanfare at a time like this, and he realizes the supermarket area is in danger. Before he takes off, something comes to him. He warns Gu Yu that the noise from the helicopters will stir up every mutant in the surrounding area. He tells her to be careful and disappears. Gu finds that guy strange. One of the soldiers questions why she let him go just like that. She replies that she has a feeling they will cross paths again soon, and orders everyone to prepare for combat since they were warned ahead of time. Meanwhile, Changdong's men land near the warehouse. Xiao orders all intact supplies to be recovered and anything alive to be killed before they enter the basement. One of the men notices someone hesitating at the entrance and asks what is going on. The guy explains that it seems a bit cold in there. Suddenly, massive ice stalactites hurl them backward and seal the entrance completely. Xiao was thrown off. How is K423 awake? He warns the men not to advance and orders a retreat to the helicopters. Crazy Leopard steps forward and asks Xiao since when does trash like him give orders? Xiao tells him to drop the arrogance and reminds him that everyone will be in serious trouble if anything gets out of hand with K423. Crazy Leopard summons another fighter called Iron Fist, who complains that yet another complicated situation has crossed his path. Crazy Leopard's men, called Drunk, asks Iron Fist why all the fuss over a single test subject. A woman called Flying Shadow corrects him. K423 is unlike all the others. She is the most lethal, unstable, and uncontrollable of every test subject on record. Apparently, she has already destroyed several laboratories without leaving anyone alive, and it is said that not even other enforcer squads managed to escape her. That is why the higher-ups asked Changdong to find a safe location to contain her. Crazy Leopard asks Xiao about the boy with spatial abilities he mentioned, the one who might have survived the grenade. Xiao says he was most likely the one who woke K423 by wandering through the place. He adds that the boy is probably dead and was lucky not to have fallen into Master Xiao's hands. Iron Fist taunts the others for being nervous and says he will handle it on his own. He starts hammering on the ice wall. Shen appears and tells him to stop. The men are stunned to see her lucid, but she recognizes them as the Enforcer Squad. She says she made a promise to Lu Hao not to cause problems. She asks them to fall back so it doesn't have to come to that. The men are confused. Drunk asks whether they grabbed the wrong person because she seems completely different from what was described. Xiao is surprised she can speak normally and realizes that the Lu Hao she is referring to is that annoying kid. Iron Fist announces he is not waiting and moves in to land a few hits on her. One of the others calls him reckless, but Shen captures him in midair with ice stalactites, and he begs Drunk for backup. Drunk reminds him he was the one acting tough, then pours alcohol into his mouth and spits fire. Shen identifies the firepower and raises an ice shield as protection. Flying Shadow cuts the shield in two and announces she will take her out first, and Shen is genuinely impressed by that speed. While fighting, an inner voice presses Shen to give up control, telling her she is too weak for this. As she faces Iron Fist with a stalactite, Drunk attacks her from behind and Flying Shadow dives at her in the moment she's defending herself. The voice keeps insisting that she cannot do it. Shen responds internally to let her handle it. She goes after all three at once and tells them to get lost. Flying Shadow admits, grudgingly, that she is quite strong, worthy of the legendary K423. She says she always wanted to see what kind of woman would leave Changdong so obsessed. Even so, she warns that Shen is cornered. She will not be able to hold out like that indefinitely. The others add that she will not want Changdong as an enemy. They ask her to come back with them. Master Chang will take good care of her. The inner voice calls Shen useless and says she cannot even protect Lu Hao, then demands she kill everyone there. The other side asks to take over. Shen begins to feel the pressure building inside her, but she knows that only Lu Hao can hold it back if it surfaces. She starts to wonder where he is. Lu Hao tears through the streets on his motorcycle at high speed and runs over several of Changdong's men who were discussing reports. Those still standing aim their weapons at him without knowing who he is. Lu Hao assesses how many there are and considers using electricity, but hesitates to spend it all at once on just this group. Suddenly, a grenade goes off in the middle of them and sends them flying. It is Point who informs him that Xiao brought a group of ability users to attack and that Shen went to intercept them. He slipped out through a back exit of the casino and asks Lu Hao to go help Shen while he handles the ones outside. Lu Hao takes off and tells Point not to let a single one escape. Point cocks his weapon with a grin and confirms. Shen is ambushed by the 3 fighters again. Crazy Leopard comments that he didn't even need to come, since K423 clearly does not live up to her reputation. Xiao, however, senses that something does not add up. She shows no real aggressive impulse, and yet she's holding off 3 people at the same time. He knows that if she wanted to escape, there would be no stopping her. So either she is holding something back, or she is waiting for someone. Drunk jokes that it must be the little boyfriend Zhao mentioned, saying she might be waiting to be rescued. He says she's going to be disappointed. Lu Hao is just some reckless kid who is probably hiding in a corner somewhere. He advances with far more fire and tells her to taste his supreme flame since she's on her own. The heat begins to melt Shen's ice shield. She pulls back as she realizes the entire supermarket is heating up and ice can barely form. She concludes it will get too dangerous if this keeps up. She begins to give way internally to let the other side take over. Then a hand lands on her back and Lu Hao pushes her out of the way while blocking the fire with a shield. Drunk stares without comprehension. Lu Hao hurls the shield into his face and says he clearly has a death wish. He smashes the guy's face with the shield and slams into the ground, blood spraying backward. The others stare without processing it. Lu Hao turns toward them with his usual crooked grin. Xiao begins activating his cowers and calls Lu Hao a brat who does not know how to die. He asks how he has the nerve to show up there and how he ended up in such a sorry state. Lu Hao fires back, asking whether Xiao is going to run with his tail between his legs again since he brought so much company this time, and calls him by his nickname, Scarface Xiao. Xiao demands to know how he knows that. Crazy Leopard tells them both to shut up and orders his men to deal with the intruder. He gripes about the waste of resources it took to create Drunk, calls everyone useless trash, and warns them either they kill Lu Hao or he will personally torture them all to death when they get back. Flying Shadow joins the fight the moment Lu Hao sends Iron Fist packing. Lu Hao asks Shen to fall back. She is clearly holding herself in check.
Shen explains that she no longer needs to. She realized that her other side has always been afraid of Lu Hao, so there's no reason to hold back while he is around. She lets go of the reins and launches herself at Flying Shadow, who immediately senses that something has shifted in Shen's aura. Meanwhile, Xiao runs at Lu Hao and calls him a brat. He asks how he still has the nerve to show up and tries to land a punch, implying he expected K423 to be there to protect him. Lu Hao throws a punch back, and to Xiao's complete shock, the impact shatters his metal hand instantly. Lu Hao asks whether he really thought bringing a single enforcer squad would be enough. Xiao cannot understand how this kid's strength has changed so drastically in just 2 days. Before he can process it, he takes a punch to the face that sends him flying several meters back. Lu Hao moves in to finish things off, but suddenly his body locks up. It feels as if the weight of the entire world is pressing down on him. It is Crazy Leopard who steps in saying that is far enough, since he cannot let Scarface die without hearing from Master Chang. Xiao staggers to his feet and asks Crazy Leopard why it took him so long. Crazy Leopard tells Lu Hao that he appreciates his stubbornness. He invites him to work for him going forward. With Drunk dead, a spot has opened up, and offers to put in a good word with Chang Dong. Lu Hao identifies the power, gravitational ability, and he wonders why he never heard of anyone like this connected to Chang Dong in his previous life. Lu Hao asks Crazy Leopard why they always come with the same tired lines, and tells him to try a different script. Crazy Leopard increases the gravitational pressure and tells Lu Hao to enjoy the time he has left before every bone in his body turns to dust. Meanwhile, Point finishes off the last men outside and considers it an embarrassment that one of them managed to wound him. He concludes he has gotten rusty without training, but then notices smoke rising from the wound. Before he can process it, the wound closes completely, as if it had never existed. Point can barely believe his own eyes. Inside the bunker, one of the girls points out that Shen and Point have been outside for too long, and almost asks whether they are already dead. Another one scolds her. They are far too strong for that. The first says she's afraid of being captured and taken back. A third replies that she would rather die there than return to that hell, but points out that it is too soon to despair because there is still hope as long as Lord Lu Hao can come back. Outside, Lu Hao continues to be crushed under the overwhelming weight of Crazy Leopard's power. Shen gets distracted by it. Flying Shadow attacks her from behind, telling her to stop worrying about her boyfriend and focus on the fight. Before she reaches Shen, Shen counters with an ice sword, saying she is not worried about Lord Lu Hao. Flying Shadow is stunned to see that Shen cut her blade clean in two. Shen tells them they have no idea what they have provoked, and moves to slap her, but Flying Shadow dodges. Shen admits her speed is impressive. Flying Shadow declares she is going to show what she is capable of. She says Shen cannot keep up with her pace or hurt her. Shen does not move a muscle, and fires stalactites directly from the ice already in Flying Shadow's face. Shocked, she tries to dodge, and gets hit in the face anyway. Iron Fist reappears, shatters part of the ice, and warns Shen not to forget he is still in the game. He lunges with a punch, but Shen simply smiles and raises an ice shield. Lu Hao finds it strange. Shen's strength should have ended the fight already. He wonders whether she is holding back on purpose or whether her ability is genuinely struggling to keep up with Flying Shadow.
Xiao takes the opportunity and kicks Lu Hao on the face, telling him to stop looking the other way. He says K423 belongs to Master Chang and tells him to stop daydreaming. Lu Hao just smiles, throws a punch back, and tells Xiao he's getting full of himself. Crazy Leopard cannot understand how Lu Hao is still moving under multiplied output. Lu Hao says the energy spreading evenly through his body was simply too good to pass up, and that he was playing along with Crazy Leopard's performance on purpose. He was absorbing the energy the whole time and is already at 91%. He asks whether that is all Crazy Leopard has. Crazy Leopard admits that Lu Hao's power is genuinely unsettling, so he drives his fists into the ground to give him a taste of what was asked for. The impact cracks the ground and everything begins to float. Point shows up right at that moment and asks what the hell is going on. Iron Fist complains that the boss could have given a warning first. Shen feels her own body grow heavy and concludes that Crazy Leopard's power has an enormous range. Xiao asks Crazy Leopard to wait for him to get clear first. Crazy Leopard ignores him and boasts to Lu Hao, saying this is his ability, gravitational control. He tells Lu Hao to blame himself for provoking him and to wait to be crushed. Lu Hao responds with a kick to his face and asks whether he's done with all that rambling, because he has no interest in his resume. Crazy Leopard fires back with a punch and asks whether Lu Hao thinks gravity is only good for crushing. Lu Hao is hurled backward with a force that surprises him, and Crazy Leopard tells him he underestimated him. He explains that within his power range there are small gravitational shredding zones. Even if Lu Hao's muscles can handle the sudden shift, his internal organs will not hold up. Now that he knows who's in charge, he tells Lu Hao to convince K423 to surrender as well. Lu Hao finds Crazy Leopard's power familiar. It hits him right away. It is the ability of the legendary Lord-class mutant Skinface from the Eastern District, and that is exactly why he never heard of anyone like this connected to Changdong in his previous life. Based on when Skinface appeared on the previous timeline, Lu Hao realizes that Crazy Leopard must be losing control of his ability soon. With that in mind, he gets up and tells Crazy Leopard he had him wrong. He says he now sees that Crazy Leopard is not attacking at full force because he does not dare show the other side. Crazy Leopard is shaken. How does he know that? He tries to keep his composure and tells Lu Hao to stop raving. Lu Hao asks whether Changdong knows about this, and says he certainly will not keep someone this useless around if he finds out. He tells Crazy Leopard to take off the hood and prove that his mutation level is still within controllable limits. The words land squarely. Crazy Leopard, whose eyes are already mutated, explodes and says he is the chosen one, the future of humanity. How could a divine ability cause him to mutate? He says he's not going back to any laboratory and swears to crush Lu Hao to death. Lu Hao leaps at him and warns that playtime is over. In his previous life, Lu Hao studied each mutant with obsessive care, not to fight them, but to avoid them. He always stayed in protected settlements, never crossed paths with high-level mutants, much less Skinface, a legendary regional lord. Now, for the first time, he is looking forward to the confrontation. He activates the Tyrant form. He grabs Crazy Leopard by the throat and says he has no interest in what happens to him afterward. He adds that it's more practical to eliminate him now and save everyone the trouble. The Eastern District will be far more peaceful without him. The system fires off an alert. Near Lord mutant reaction detected in the vicinity. A side mission is added. Defeat the near Lord class mutant about to emerge, with a reward of body enhancement points and a random ability upgrade. Lu Hao grumbles that the system never gets tired of piling on tasks with such modest rewards. Crazy Leopard begins his transformation. Iron Fist notices the boss is acting strange, but Shen is already closing in on him. Just as she is about to hit him, Flying Shadow reappears with another blade and cuts through the ice in her path, announcing that her opponent is still right here. She calls Shen a crazy, uncontrollable bitch who stacks up favors from the higher-ups simply for having awakened a powerful natural ability. responsibility and says everyone suffered because of her. She swears to kill Shen and take her resources, her treatments, and Master Chang's favor. What envy. Shen, however, quietly asks whether she is also a victim, just like the girls locked in the basement. Meanwhile, Iron Fist runs to help Crazy Leopard, who has completely lost his mind. Crazy Leopard grabs him and asks whether he also came to mock him, whether he wants to kill him and take his place. He tears Iron Fist's head off with his teeth. Lu Hao concludes the man has gone completely insane. Xiao watches in disbelief, sees Crazy Leopard start devouring Iron Fist's body, and decides the situation is a lost cause. Time to run. He wonders whether the medicine from that strange organization still has side effects even after awakening. Just as he's about to bolt, Po Yan appears in front of him and warns him that it is well past time to try escaping. And that wraps up the chapters available for this series. There are no more chapters out yet, so if you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so I can bring you new chapters as soon as they drop. See you in the next video. Bye!